Dentistry in General Radio Network presents the Independent Dental Practice Podcast with Dr. Sonny Spera. In this episode,
give me some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen in team building.
One of the biggest mistakes, I think, is not hiring the right rock star team. And when we look at dental school, their job really is not to teach you business. But if you're going to come into practice, you've got to do things from a high business end, and your business skill and acumen has to be on par with your clinical skill and acumen. And if it's not, you and your team are not going to succeed to the level that you want. One of the greatest things taught to me, you got to have the right personality profile in the right position. And they got to have what's called the HQ factor, hospitality quotient. I want every one of my team members to have 49% skill and 51% HQ, hospitality quotient factor. When you do the follow-up, you want that patient to say, wow, you guys are best dental medical office I've ever been to.
Mastering team building and leadership, hiring the right people, strengthening office culture, and leading with impact. Dr. Sonny Spera interviews Dr. Robert Pick.
Welcome to the Independent Dental Practice Podcast. Dr. Sonny Spera. Today's guest is an old friend of mine and probably yours, because I think he knows everybody that's in dentistry. I'm pretty sure of it, actually. His name is Dr. Robert Pick. Bob Pick likes to go by. He's in charge of the Pick Group. He does consulting. He's written books. Purple Cow Wow guy has the Facebook group. And one thing that I will say I'm going to call myself a young dentist if I may take that license here, is as a younger dentist, I always admired his just positivity every single moment of every day. And I think you need people like that as your ethics and role models, etc. So please welcome Dr. Bob Pick.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Sonny.
This is a delight. You're one of my favorites. I actually got to know you much better through COVID. It was like you were this shining light that refused to be beaten up, for lack of a better word. And I really appreciate it. I gravitated to looking to what you said, what you did. It was a breath of fresh air. I remember one time you posted you went in for an emergency, and it was an extraction of some sort, and the patient was all swelled up. And I remember writing back to you. I was like, why would you do this here and do that there? And you answered it, and I was like, oh, this guy's for real. I like that. So how you doing today, man?
Thank you very much. It means a lot to me.
You got it, man. You deserve it. So today's topic is about team building. He is an absolute champion of hiring the right team, training the right team, and building the right team. So let's lean on that. So we're going to talk team building. So Bob, first question I want to ask you, because I know you do consulting. I know you work with a lot of dentists. Give me some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen in team building.
Oh, wow. We're going to be on for 9 hours. One of the biggest mistakes I think that is made and is not hiring the right rock star team. And when we look at dental school, medical school, law school, chiropractic school, their job really is not to teach you business. It's to do a skill set. But if you're going to come into practice, you've got to do things from a high business end, and your business skill and acumen has to be on par with your clinical skill and acumen.
That's a good statement. Let's say that one more time. Your business skills and acumen have to be on par with your clinical skills and acumen. That's a really profound statement.
100%, yes. And if it's not, you and your team are not going to succeed to the level that you want. And so it's hiring that rock star team. And if I can talk about it for a second, it was my topic maybe 2 weeks ago on my Sunday Night Live on Purple Cow Dental Wow, is things, simple things really, that you got to do to hire that rock star team. One of the greatest things taught to me by an early mentor, Dr. Pete Dawson, may he rest in peace, was the DISC personality profile system.
Well, we use that too.
And DISC, people, and D stands for driver, my way or the highway. All right, let's get it done. Let's get it done right now. I stands for interactive or expressive, Jim Carrey. And S stands for steady relator, somebody that's more soft-spoken, easygoing. And C stands for calculating or analytical. And once you know that, different personality profiles have to be put in the correct position. You don't want somebody answering the phone that's hyper analytical. I thank you for calling Sonny's office. This is Jim. I need to get some analytical information for you before we schedule an appointment. Oh my God. You want somebody that's friendly. Hi, thank you so much for calling Dr. Spera's office. This is Annie. Oh my goodness, I'm so glad you called, and you get the idea. And so you got to know DISC. You got to have the right personality profile in the right position. And something else, if I can talk about it, that is huge. They got to have what's called the HQ factor, hospitality quotient. And this is something that the restaurant industry figured out years ago. I want every one of my team members to have 49% skill and 51% HQ, hospitality quotient factor, making every patient feel special and knowing about them, little things. I don't care what procedure you do. I don't care if you're doing an occlusal adjustment. I don't care if you seat a veneer, put an implant in. You want that patient to say when you do the follow-up, wow, you guys are unbelievable. Best dental medical office I've ever been to. And so you get the idea.
Okay. All right. So one of the big mistakes you've seen is hiring poorly or incorrectly. You got any others you can think of? I'm sure you got plenty, but what are some other ones that come to mind with all the people that you've worked with?
Oh, besides, first off, going backwards for a second, I could spend 9 hours on how to hire that rock star team.
Sure. Yeah.
But that's always got to be in your brain. And once you get that rock star team, you have to take care of that rock star team. The great Simon Sinek,
Yep.
has a great quote that I love. And his quote is, leadership is not about taking care of, leadership is not about taking care of those in your charge. Leadership is about taking care of those in your charge, leading them, taking them to a different level. And so it's about taking those that are already rocking and bring them to a high level, man. That's one of the most important things you can ever do. And so leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. Great quote by Simon Sinek.
Okay. So speaking of leadership, what kind of failures have you seen in leadership? But we're talking about the dark side first, and we'll get to the good side in a second. But what kind of things? Yeah, give me some examples. I know I've got a few, but go ahead.
There's that old expression that dentists hire too fast and fire too slow.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it, because once you hire somebody, you may not be able to get the right person for a little bit, and then you're going to be short an assistant. So I think the greatest thing is when you do hire, make sure you got the right person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd rather assist myself than, which I don't think I've ever done, but I'd rather assist myself than have a poor team member that doesn't know what they're doing. And wait for the right people. Learn this stuff about this. Hire a great practice coach that's going to help you elevate. So important.
Let's go back to your point about your skills, your business skills matching your clinical skills. So obviously in these scenarios, we're talking about some swings and misses here. So the person, they recognize, you know what? I don't have natural leadership skills. I need to improve on my leadership skills. What are some things they can do to do that?
Great question. And I think two things are involved. One, we know from the military, we know from other studies that most humanoids, if you will, don't have great leadership skills. That's just part of who we are. Some have it better than others. So if you don't have great leadership skills, that's where a great coach comes in. And when I lecture and I talk about hiring the right coach, I said, don't forget, being a Chicagoan, I show a picture of the great Michael Jordan. And all I got to do is say MJ, Michael Jordan. Even Michael Jordan had coaches. And that coach is always going to know something that you don't know, believe it or not. But anything else, hiring the right assistant, hiring the right front desk person, hiring the right hygienist, hire the right coach. You don't want to have the wrong coach because then everything is going to be goofed up.
Michael Jordan didn't make it till he got Phil Jackson. So talking about having the right coach. He had good coaches, but then he had the right coach.
Things are going to elevate because there's things you're going to be taught if you don't know that takes you vertical. And there's nothing wrong with getting help, period. I signed a secrecy agreement a long time ago, hired an amazing coach almost 30 years ago now, before it was popular. Until he dies, I can't say who it is, but that person took me to another level. I had just bought a practice partner out. Great guy, great person, but I just wasn't meant to be. I knew nothing about running the practice, nothing. And without boring everybody, within something else that's huge, in a very short time frame, really, I pray this doesn't come out arrogant. In 1983, 2 years out of my training, right place, right time, out of my residency, I was the first person in the world to use a laser in the mouth. And it put me on this international lecture circuit with all of these people that mentored me. Having an unbelievable mentor is huge. I also realized I had been at a General Electric Fortune 500 conference. And I started the PBR, Pick Business Team Building Retreat. That's one of the most read articles in dentistry today. Look up use retreats to become a Fortune 500 dental business, people. And it's where you go away from the office so you don't have disturbances. And in the premier one, you got to figure out your brand. What do you do better than anybody else? Your unique selling proposition, your mission, your vision, your culture statement, surprise guest speakers. It goes on and on. And when you do your why, and every dentist, again, look it up, people, from Simon Sinek. It's called the golden circle. And every dentist knows what they do and how they do it, but most teams don't know why they do what they do. And when you figure out your why and do everything else I just talked about, the patient will never go anywhere else, period. It's
You know, I want to expand on what I'm a thorough 1000% believer in the mentor and role model in everything, right? As a young kid, basketball player, how did I develop some of my skills? Most of them were watching other players and then learning a move, copying a move, and then experimenting with a move, right? And just making some of those things your own. And in dentistry, a lot of the things that I did, like I would read some stuff by Howard Friend. Next thing you know, I'm calling him up saying, hey, I want to come visit your office. I want to see you work. Things like that. Dwayne Schmidt was the first person that had a major impact on my career. He's a pediatric dentist, but had a practice in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And he ran it. He wrote some books. He wrote about computerization in the office, earn more, work less, so 3 steps to the $1 million practice, multiple books. But it was an easy writer to follow. We became very good friends. And I traveled there a couple times, brought some team members. I do it now. My classmates, Buddy Richie in Long Island, I go down there. Rich, you working Friday? Good. I'm stopping in. And there's just so much that you can learn just by absorbing it. Just sit there. And I was watching, oh, geez, what did you get? Oh, you use that for your composite. So you bring that out. Oh, that's how this room is set up. And you just start asking questions of the team, et cetera. And you learn. If you want to learn, you can learn, but you got to put the effort in and you got to find those people that you aspire to be like. You don't have to be them, but you want to be like them in certain aspects. Gordon Christensen and the things he teaches and stuff, I'd love to see him work. That's on my bucket list. But there's so many things that you can gain from having that right, you circle, right? Circle of friends, circle of influence, but you want to be able to have those people that you can learn from, right? So I know you've talked about it. You talk a lot about mentors and how important it is. And I think that's your fast track, is finding the right people and then making it your own, right?
no question. And when I lecture, whether it's an hour after dinner, an all-day lecture, I have the pick group secrets to success. And pick group top secret number one, I call it the 10 top secrets. So it's number one top secret.
I know.
That's mentors.
Yeah.
And mentors are huge. It's unbelievable.
Okay. So we hit on a couple of the things you don't want to do, right? So
Now,
some of the biggest mistakes you've seen. Give me a couple of tips that you would say are essential in building a strong team. So you've hired the right person, okay? You're training, you're teaching them, you're working with them. How do you build that team that can then take those steps and propel the practice forward? I know you said they have to understand the why, but what are some things an average dentist can do? Just very simply, give me a couple nuggets that they can do to really, hey, let's get some steroids injected here. Let's get this thing going.
Yeah, no question. And once you get that rock star team, and there's, besides the team building retreat, there's little things that you can do. And I call it a surprise lunch. And when no one expects it, at the morning huddle on Monday, that's a whole other thing you got to do. I'll say, oh, by the way, Wednesday, don't anybody bring your lunch. I'm buying lunch. And I would say to my team leader, Annie, order where you want to order from, where everybody thinks they're going to love. My team leader would always have one of our office debit cards, and boom, surprise lunch. And it blows everybody away. It's an endorphin high. And 3-4 times a year, I would do a surprise dinner. And we used to love going to this Japanese steakhouse. And they knew who we were. Last time we were there, the guy was making fried rice, and he made it in like a heart. And because he knew how special we were. A simple note. And I talked about this on a live maybe 6 weeks ago. Although I'm usually the first one in the office and the last one out, I realized when I was leaving, my hygienist, Vanessa, was still there. She had a great day. And so I ran back to my office, and on one of our cards, I wrote, it has our letterhead, "Oh my goodness, Vanessa, you are absolutely the best hygienist on planet Earth. So glad you're part of my team. You rock," with an exclamation mark. And I taped it on the door. I put it in an envelope, put her name on it. And when she left, I got a text, "OMG, I needed this. You've made my day. Best boss ever." Doesn't get any better than that.
Mm-hmm.
And so little things, people like to be told you have done something well. And we forget to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And all you got to do is say to somebody, "Nino, you were awesome today. A plus."
You know what else is funny? I'm sure that when you have a team of 8 or 9, there's some people that you vibe with a little better, right? Almost like natural. And then there's some people that you don't vibe well easily. And those are the ones that you can ignore and justify in your head. Well, you know what? She bugs me. But I think those are the ones you need to make an extra effort to start to build those bridges. Like maybe it's something like, "Hey, I love the way your hair looked today," or some little pearl that they then take and they're like, "Oh my God, they noticed." And, because I'm sure there's a little mutual, if there's a little friction, I'm sure there's a little mutual. But if you can spend a little extra time and a little extra effort on those more challenging, or like my youngest daughter, she's not a hugger or a cuddler, right? Where my other two, it's like it's Italian. We're just going to slobber all over each other. It's a half hour to say goodbye, right? So I do it more with her, but I call her the porcupine. I'm like, "Garlic, you got to lighten up a little bit." But it's a joke, but it's also, I make more of an effort. So I think that's a point that is well taken along the lines of what you're saying, because as I'm sitting here thinking, oh, on my team, oh, there's 5 or 6 of them. I know I do that kind of naturally. And there's other ones, it's not so natural. You got to force yourself. Yeah. Yep.
No question. And yes, I agree 4,000%, because people like to be recognized. They like to be told things. I'll make you laugh, but as silly as it sounds, if we go back to how you hire that rock star team, I always looked for little things that I don't think most people look for. And my office manager always did the premier interview. And then once it got to me, and she looked for the same thing. What's the person's swagger? What do they look like when they're walking into my office? Is it summertime, wintertime, how they dressed? Are they coming from work? Do they have a manicure? If it's summertime, they get open toe shoes. Is there a pedicure? And believe it or not, that says a lot about your team. And when I lecture, I got a funny picture. All my team members happen to be standing on our conference room. And I said, hang on one second. Everybody put their hands in together. Took a picture. There was 8 of us, 8 team members, all had an awesome manicure. And I sometimes use that when I lecture. And I'm like, this says a lot, because when you're working on somebody, nobody likes going to the dentist usually. And so when you have those little things, it's huge.
Do you do anything else? I know you do your retreats and such, but how about, again, average dentist, 5, 6, 7, 8 employees, team members? What's some other things they can do to help the team accelerate their growth?
Oh, no question. And when you do those pick business team building retreats, there's things that the team eventually knows. As an example, they all know a great quote, because you got to develop your mission, your vision, your culture statement. They know a great quote by the one and only Steve Martin. We want to be so good, we can't be ignored. And they eventually think about that. What can we do so good? And eventually, within about 2 years, I talked about that PBR, Pick Business Team Building Retreat. It eventually became a 2-day biannual retreat. And again, to blow the team away towards like right after lunch at the end of the second day, I would say, by the way, everybody, there should be something taped under your seat. And they, oh my God. And something I did when I got there, they pull out this envelope. And I said, all right, before you open it, I want you to know the last couple hours here, that was all baloney. We're not reading this article. This thing doesn't exist. Open it up. There should be $200 cash in there. And we had about 10 minutes from our office was this like mall. It was called the Chicago Discount Malls. All the stores are there, Nike, you name it. And we're going there. We're going to have a shopping spree. And we'd get there, we'd meet at a certain spot. And I'm like, all right, everybody's got 90 minutes, go. And we'd meet back at this spot. Everybody would show what they bought. It made for a great picture. The excitement and the endorphin that you put in that team is a mind blow. And it's something they never forget. Nobody's ever done it. And when they come back to the office, no different than after a great Pick Business Team Building Retreat, they come back excited, more motivated, and they want to just crank at the highest level to see what else you're going to do when they crank at that level. It's unbelievable.
Let's talk a little bit about your office culture now, because I think building the team, you want to have a strong office culture. What are some keys to a very strong office culture? What are some things that are must-haves?
Yeah, culture is huge. And when you do things right and you hire the right team with the right personality profile for the right position, that culture almost happens automatically. And that culture is team building. That culture is the retreats, the shopping spree. And when that happens, culture elevates all on its own. You almost don't have to do anything. And I pray this doesn't come out arrogant. For close to 30 years, I ran a dental hygiene study club. Once a quarter, someone would say, are you guys looking for anybody? I want to work here. We love your culture. We love what you do. When you post on social media about those surprise lunches and dinners and shopping sprees, oh my God. And my boss has never even said something nice to me in the 12 years I've been there. So culture builds automatically when you have the right team doing the right thing with that hospitality quotient.
Let's go back to the leadership thing, because it just reminded me of a thought that I had as we were talking. Everybody has different personality profiles in dentistry. Like we've done this in the 7 docs we have now. And one of the most important things is it helps you communicate better with the person if you understand a little bit about their profile. So to be a leader and to be a good leader, you don't have to be one of those profiles. Now, you know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to be, oh, the only leaders should be Ds. I don't think that's true at all. Talk a little bit about the leadership and the profile attached and or vice versa. Like how does the profile, so in other words, you're talking to me, let's say I'm not an S, but let's say I'm an S. How would you help me be a better leader, so to speak? Talk to that truth.
This is going to be fun. We're going to be here till 3 a.m. No. And knowing, and for those of you that watch this, listen to this, when we're done, if you don't know it, just simply look up DISC, D-I-S-C, personality profile.
DISC. Yep.
And it begins with the first new patient phone call. And if you have the right team members with the right personality profiles, knowing what they do, and they're a rock star team. One of my people, Annie or Nina, were usually first on phones. And within 20 seconds on the phone call, they can usually tell you what the personality profile was of that patient. Everybody has what's called primary, secondary.
So you're talking about the person that receives the phone call has now made a judgment on the person they're speaking to about what their profile. Do they mark it on the chart? Do you say, hey, this person's coming in, they're high I?
Oh yeah, just from the phone call.
But it's marked on their chart, right?
But what happens is, when the patient walks in the door, that profile is confirmed. And then when the assistant assigned to the patient brings the patient back, they triple confirm it, because every one of my team members knows DISC ice cold. And without boring everybody, another great thing I learned, all my new patients are not met in a treatment operatory. They're met in something called the preclinical interview educational conference room. It's a room about half the size of an operatory. The assistant brings the patient in, sits the patient down. Dr. Pick will be right in. And when the patient sits down, the first thing they see on the computer screen, Dr. Robert Pick's Patient Education 2025. And then just to the right is our mission, vision, culture statement. So let's say it's Sonia. She walks out, grabs me. This person is over analytical. You better get in there in a hurry. Okay. And that's already was confirmed. So I walk in. You can't be somebody you're not, but you can imitate. So if I knew somebody's analytical, I make sure my reading glasses are on, because that's right off the bat. Most analyticals wear glasses. And part of it was confirming that they were a computer analyst. And so when I walk in the room, my voice will be a little bit serious. Hi, Sonny. I'm Dr. Bob Pick. Welcome to the practice. Sorry, I'm 34.8 seconds late. I know you're going to need a implant at site number 30. And I want you to know before you leave today, I have 47 articles you can read, all scientific, on the implant. And when we put it in, I know you've already done some research. We're going to be 0.0758 microns to every osteoblast. And if I treated somebody that was expressive like that, they think I was cuckoo. And so then the last question I ask is, before they're brought to the treatment operatory, Sonny, before we bring you to our treatment room, do you have any questions for me about my training, my team, or anything we're going to do today? 80% of patients will go, when can we get started? And I haven't even done the exam yet. And that preclinical interview was taught to me by mentors. And so you try to imitate the person you're dealing with. And you got to know somebody's a steady relator, amiable. Jim, this could be a really tough decision. I want you to know if you need a second visit, bring your wife in, that's fine. We're going to go everything with you and do it right.
I love it. I love it. All right. Office culture, we talked about that. That was one I wanted to cover. The tips to building a strong team and some of the biggest mistakes. Okay. I'm a brand new owner dentist coming out of associateship. I'm doing a startup. Give me a couple of nuggets that you think are going to be essential for me as I develop my own culture, ethos, the whole thing.
When you become a brand new practice owner, one, you have things today that did not exist when I came out of school, and that's social media. And you have various sites where you can look at things, get help. But one, you got to hire a coach. I know we talked about it in the beginning. You got to hire a coach, and you got to have somebody coach you to the right things, because you're going to get there faster. You're going to have less failures, and you're going to rock and roll. And so by having that coach, it starts it all. The PBR, again, go to Dentistry today. Use retreats to become a Fortune 500 dental business. Fortune 500 companies are successful. They're doing something right. And one of my own quotes is, always imitate those that are successful. Don't be jealous. But if you can put your own spin on it, crank it. And
I couldn't agree with that more. That's the story of my life.
And you got to have the right image. Another one of my own quotes, image coupled with a strong performance is a powerful force that is unstoppable. And besides that, coach young people, get mentors, and a coach is a mentor. But there can be mentors in other things.
But mentorship, I think people throw that word around a bit too much in terms of he's a mentor of mine, she's a mentor of mine. Is that really the case? Or is it just someone that's a little bit more of a role model? To me, a mentor is a two-way conversation. Don't you think?
Mentorship can be when you have a primary mentor, and mentors change with time. Your early mentor is somebody that knows how to take a new practice and make it go vertical. And once you've been in practice for 20 years, you want a coach or a mentor that knows what to do with a 20-year-old practice to continue to make it successful, period.
But it has to be dialogue, right? It can't be a one-directional conversation. I don't feel. That's truly not mentorship. I think you can find that one-directional conversation anywhere online if you want to, right? But a true mentor is, I'm doing this, that. Oh, how about this? Oh, this. You have that dialogue. So much is learned in that conversation.
No question. It's not a one-way street. It's a two-way street. And no different than the wrong team member. If you realized you got the wrong coach or the wrong mentor, there's nothing wrong with releasing that mentor or coach and hiring the next one. And it goes on from there. And I want everybody to listen to this. If you don't know who Jim Rohn is, look him up. There's a great quote by the one and only Jim Rohn. And it goes, you're the sum of the 5 closest people you surround yourself with. And when I use that quote and tell it, the next line out of my mouth is, because I like everybody to laugh, I go, I'm screwed. And surround yourself with great people, period.
But don't be afraid to evaluate that, because you may grow in a certain way and may find that one of those people doesn't belong as your top 5.
No question.
It's not forever and it's not permanent, okay? But I think you've got to look at that. For example, let's say, just take the in-network, out-of-network. You're out of network, and one of the people you talk to really is focusing on insurance and et cetera. Now, you can learn some things, but that may not be the path that you've chosen that you want to accelerate at. Maybe you need to find another person that's more in line and harmony with where you want to be.
There is no question about that. And to this day, I have a coach that I work with that helps me. And when I lecture, I show an original mentor almost before I knew what the word was. It's why I ended up in dentistry. And I show my original mentors in dentistry, Gordy Christensen, Denny Tarnow, Goldstein Garber from Atlanta, and Pete Dawson. They all took me under their wing at the same time. And then I advanced from them, and I kept going on to the people I have today. And without them, I would not be where I'm at. No way. And it's no different. My current coach, about 2 years ago, he said, I know you're doing practice coaching, the last thing you ever thought you'd do, but why don't you do some masterminds? And I'm like, boom, why didn't I think of that? And so a coach can help you and trigger things in the most amazing way than you ever expected or thought.
Perfect. What a great place to end it. That is profound. I think today's conversation was on another level. It was deep. It was deep. I really appreciate you, man. People want to get a hold of you. I know that you sent it. We'll have it in the show notes, but real quick, right? www.thepickgroup.com or Dr. Pick at thepickgroup.com. He's in Chicago, Illinois. We won't hold that against him. He's become a good friend, and I really appreciate you, Bob. Thanks a million. Lots of people going to learn a lot of things, man. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It means a lot to me. And again, with our technology today, you can PM me. Just so many cool things.
Have a purple cowwow day. And today is the conference, right? The conference final. So I'm wearing my Bills gear. He's, of course, got the purple cowwow thing on. That. And hey, go Bills, baby. That's all I can say.
Always be branding. Sonny, you're amazing.
You too. Thanks. That was the great Bob Pick, Dr. Bob Pick. He's a character, but he's so right. As always, I appreciate you listening. Please like, share with your friends, subscribe. Anywhere you get your podcasts, you can go to digrnnetwork.digrn.com. Check it out. It's on YouTube. Anywhere you get your podcast, you can find this show, the Independent Dental Practice Podcast. It's been a pleasure getting this back on the air. Appreciate you all. Have a great day. If you have any concerns or questions, you can always reach me directly, 607-624-2962. That's my personal cell. I will get your message. You can hit me up on Facebook. You can email me at sonnyspera@gmail.com. Have a great day, folks. Thanks for listening.
This has been a production of Dentistry in General Radio Network. Visit our website, dentistryingeneral.com, to join engaging clinical and business conversations, explore our dental podcasts, and stay updated on our upcoming live event.